I love Mondays with Mike Heller.
Broadcasting live from an undisclosed bunker in the Badger State, this is I Love Mondays with Mike Heller. Powered by determination and a little bit of duct tape. Here's your host, Mike Heller.
Welcome in on a Tuesday. We get started on this Tuesday. So fired up about what's going on. You know, last night is the transition. It's like turning the calendar from winter to spring in full, in earnest. Basketball's off the table now in the college game. The NBA doesn't begin their playoffs for another week and a half after this 16th of April. The NHL begins their playoffs next week for those who are following that level of hockey. College hockey, Wisconsin is in the Frozen Four in Las Vegas. They play on Thursday afternoon. So, but yesterday is the beginning of the full-on transition from winter to spring. And I get it that basketball, you know, the NBA and the NHL, they'll run through their playoffs all the way into, you know, essentially into June. So, we certainly understand that, but it is kind of the transition. And good morning to Mike and good morning to James. I appreciate you guys jumping in every morning with your well wishes. So let me tell you about a Superfan Tuesday a little bit. I understand the importance of what last night was, you know, from a national championship game, and that the Big Ten is essentially the centerpiece of all college athletics right now. Because it is. They've won everything. Oh, by the way, just a little offshoot here. Spencer is in Boston, and Spencer is everywhere. Spencer is a good dude that I've gotten to know over the last number of years. We've sort of worked in under the same umbrella, or certainly did. And I sit next to him. We'll have dinner together in the commissary in the press box at Brewers games. But this dude goes everywhere. I'm talking about everywhere. He's in Boston, and he does that on his own dime. Now he's credentialed, so he's working in the press box, but there's a little professional jealousy, not on the money he's spending, because he does have to arrange. I mean, this is on his dime. He's in Boston. He gets paid a little bit, but they're not taking care. Hey, we'll fly you out. What hotel do you want to stay in? Ain't happening that way. But being at Fenway, there's some jealousy. I've not been. Of the major stadiums that I would like to go to that I haven't been to, I've been to Yankee Stadium, but for a pinstripe bowl, not a baseball game. I've been to Fenway in January on a tour. Those are the ones that jump out. It's baseball stadiums that I want to go to that I haven't been to. There's no football stadium that I'm jonesing to go to. Notre Dame, maybe for a game. You know, I don't think the stadium is spectacular, but being there on a game day Saturday, that's why I'm always kind of pissed off that Wisconsin and Notre Dame did the home and home, which was neutral. I mean, who gives a dang about going to Soldier Field? Going to Lambeau is cool, but I've been there. I wish those games would have been at Notre Dame and at Camp Randall. Playing at Alabama last year at Bryant-Denny, that was pretty cool. The Rose Bowl is still the coolest, but going to, you know, the Horseshoe, going to the Big House, going to Happy Valley, those are all neat. There are very few stadiums in sports that I'm jonesing to go to and haven't been to. The ones that are there on my list are Major League Baseball stadiums. I want to go to Dodgers Stadium at Chavez Ravine. Haven't. That's on me. I mean, I can do these things. I want to go to Pittsburgh because everything I've heard about Pittsburgh is that PNC is fantastic. I've never been to Camden Yards. Fenway, I mentioned. Yankee Stadium, I mentioned. I've been in both, but not for games. One for a football game. But you're thinking of Spencer being there at Fenway for a Brewers Red Sox series. They go every other year. Major League Baseball in the interleague portion of their of baseball, they set you up to go every other year. And yeah, so just think of somebody had said the other day, well, when I was talking to somebody off the podcast, said what stadiums, and it's all baseball. Because in football, I spend a lot of my time at the shrine of any football stadium. I think it's the greatest stadium experience in all of American sports is being at Lambeau. Some people might not agree with that, but I think there is no greater shrine to its sport than being at Lambeau Field on an NFL Sunday. I would put Yankee Stadium in that mix. I would put Fenway in that mix. I would put Dodger Stadium in that mix. I would put Notre Dame Stadium, I don't even know what it's called, if that's what it's called, in that mix. That's probably it. You know, I was lucky enough to, when filling in for Matt LePay, to call 2 Badger basketball games at Madison Square Garden courtside. And I get MSG's mystique, but it is just a basketball arena. It is. People in New York would take, some Knicks fans, whatever, would take umbrage with that. I get the history of it. But once you're in it, it's kind of an old antiquated building. The Rose Bowl is still, from an iconic standpoint, it is the best stadium I've ever been in. And it doesn't have any amenities. It's the reason why it won't ever host a Super Bowl, because there are no suites, or very few, on the press box side only. And if you put them up on the other side, you take away some of the view of the San Gabriels. They're not doing that. That is also an old, antiquated stadium. And the reason it's so special is because if you're of a certain age and you grew up looking at that stadium on New Year's Day every year in the Rose Bowl, the traditional Rose Bowl, not what it's morphed into with college athletics. Yeah, I didn't intend to have stadium talk, but the little shout out from Spencer brought me to that point. Let me dive a little bit into the 3 topics that are top on the list. The NCAA championship last night. I was listening to another show earlier this morning, and I thought they made a good point. I was sort of rooting for Michigan. I never root for Michigan. I don't ever recall rooting for Michigan. But at some level, there's a little conference pride. I don't like UConn. I'm not a big fan of Danny Hurley. If he was my coach, I'd probably love him if he's my coach. Somebody else's coach, he's just annoying, petulant, spoiled, whatever. But his players will go through a wall for him. He's a very good coach. I was rooting as much against UConn. I wasn't really rooting for Michigan because I don't find them likable ever. But I do have some conference pride, which is goofy at some level because we don't have divisional pride. You know, if the Brewers get knocked out of the playoffs, I don't suddenly become a fan of the National League Central and say, okay, let's go get them, Cubs, Pirates, Cardinals, Reds. If the Packers are knocked out of the playoffs, I don't become a Vikings, Bears, Lions fan. Can't even name the divisions in the NBA, so it doesn't count. Eastern Conference, I suppose. If the Bucks are out, am I an Eastern Conference versus Western Conference fan? Probably not. So I think of all these things and I go, why the hell am I kind of rooting for Michigan? Anyway, so UCLA, Big Ten team, wins the women's national championship. Michigan wins the men's national championship. First men's team since 2000, Michigan State. That was a Final Four that included Wisconsin. Michigan State wins the last national championship. It goes 26 years later for Michigan to win this one. You've had Indiana, Ohio State, and Michigan win national football championships the last 3 years. You have Wisconsin in the men's Frozen Four in Las Vegas later this week. You had the Wisconsin women, WCHA, Big Ten, win the women's national championship. They won it 9 times. So the Big Ten has figured out this transfer portal NIL era of college athletics, and they have dominated the scene. I was hoping for a better game. UConn made the final minute and a half interesting, but not that interesting. They needed one more bucket to really clinch, have everybody kind of clinch up as to what was going to happen. Never got to that point. So that, hail to the victors. I don't like the song. I understand the tradition. Let me check on something here quick. Huh. Well, I'm waiting for. I see Courtney is in, so I'll get to Courtney here in a minute. But I'll see Vilker in on the. Courtney, go ahead and throw Vilker a message. Make sure he's logging in. Come on, we're at time. He should be, unless he doesn't have the proper link. If he's having a problem, let me know. Let me do this. Let me thank sponsors for you this morning because they're important to what we do. One Community Bank where clients are the number one priority. Feel good banking. Also, our presenting sponsor, M3 Insurance, where they never compromise. You get everything that they provide. No exceptions. Proud to serve clients across the country with world-class expertise, individual attention, no compromises, no matter what. Also brought to you by the Neuroscience Group. Brain, spine, and pain care. Choose Neuroscience Group in Northeast Wisconsin or anywhere. Neurosciencegroup.com. Also presented by Habish and Rotier, and by Potawatomi Sportsbook and Casino. Bet above the rest. All right, we continue to work our way through the two other topics before I bring in our superfan guest co-hosts on this Tuesday, and I'll continue to monitor. Oh, there he comes. Treadmill's logging in. Attaboy. Two other things I wanted to touch on. Wilson Contreras, now of the Boston Red Sox, made last night really entertaining game even more entertaining by being the jerk that he is. He plays with an edge about him. I mean, dude's on base 5 times last night. Had a home run in the 9th inning that made the game. They brought the tying run to the plate. He's a really good player, and the Brewers have consistently said, we are going to pitch you inside. And Wilson Contreras is a diver. So when he's at the plate, his move to swing is to go towards the plate. So he goes towards and then, up to his left. So when he swings, even on the pitch that he's hit by, it doesn't miss the box of the strike zone by much. And that he was hit by it is open for debate. But he was going to have his say because it is the 24th time that the Brewers have hit him in his career, more than any other team by about 10. Woodruff has now hit him 6 times. So Wilson's going to take first base last night, but he's going to bark all the way there. And William, his brother, is kind of getting halfway in between. And Woodruff is just asking the umpire, did it hit him? Did it hit him? He's not giving Wilson anything. He's not going to give him the time of day. He's not going to give him eye contact. He's not going to give him anything. And then the Brewers and Pat Murphy come out and kind of debate it and then challenged it. And it's one of those that you're not going to win that challenge unless it's absolutely terribly obvious. But I don't think the replay confirmed it. I think the replay, the video review of whether he was hit by the pitch, couldn't do one thing or the other. If they wouldn't have called it hit by pitch and Boston would have appealed it, I don't think he gets first base. He was called as a hit by pitch. So when the Brewers appeal it, they're not going to reverse it. There was inconclusive video evidence. Wilson, I like Wilson if he's on my team. He's Draymond Green. He's a guy, he's Bill Laimbeer. He's a guy who is going to produce for you, but he's going to be a Richard. I mean, it's kind of how he's wired. So, all right, let me bring in. One other thing, Giannis. I've been through one. Divorces are ugly. Seldom are divorces clean and mutually agreeable. And the Bucks and Giannis are in the process of divorcing, but they're not separated yet. So they live in the same house, and the shit is ugly. And we're the kids. And as fan base, we're the kids, and we're seeing it, and it's not pretty. And we're old enough to know that it's not good. And divorces are ugly. They leave scars. And this is in the early portion of the process of what is going to be a summertime trade divorce, I think. But right now, there's posturing on both sides, and divorce is ugly. All right. So let me add, we're going to add 2 to the stage today. I didn't know if this is how it would look, but this is how it looks. So Treadmill Boy, a.k.a. I think you misspelled JV. You missed the junior on there.
That's on purpose.
And then there's Courtney. Right. Court, what's going on?
So predictable, JV.
You saw that coming, did you?
He likes to, he really likes to poke at me. It's one of his true joys in life.
Well, it's low-hanging fruit, Courtney.
Indeed it is. I got to tell you, I am excited for today, not because I'm on with Jeff, but I have so many things to say about the topics today, Heller. We almost don't need the two of you, so this is going to be great.
Okay. Well, let's start where I finished on Giannis and divorce. I don't know your personal lives well enough to know if you've been product of divorces or have been. I have. My parents were always together. My mom passed away, but so I wasn't a product of divorce, but I divorced. And I've been around other divorces, and they're hardly ever clean. I mean, just think back to Favre's divorce in Green Bay and Rodgers' divorce in Green Bay. When the star of your team, the best player, among the best players in franchise history, and your franchise are going to separate, it's rarely clean. I mean, Court, you're a big Peyton Manning fan. It wasn't clean in Indianapolis. They tried to make it feel like it was clean, but it wasn't.
Nope.
I just can't think of them. Joe Montana leaving San Francisco was not clean. They never are. And Giannis is going to leave Milwaukee. I think some people were hoping he would spend his entire career Yount-ish in Milwaukee. It could have happened, but doesn't happen very often. Who is that guy? Like Magic, Kobe, they both did it. But, I mean, do you see how my analogy talking about Giannis and the fans and the organization? Giannis and the organization are the husband and wife. They're going to separate, but right now they're just fighting. And the separation is coming and a divorce will follow. And the fans are the kids. Do you understand where I'm going with that?
I get it. I'll just say, Mike, I think the biggest difference with the Giannis situation when you look at the Favre and Rodgers situation is, not to be flippant about marriage, because I've been happily married for a long time. But in the case of the Packers, both times they already had, a younger, hotter wife in the wings. Let's just be honest. In the case of the Packers, they knew what they had with Rodgers, and they think they knew what they had when they decided to, move away from Rodgers. Then the next time around, that it was a pretty clear path what they have. I think what you have going on in Milwaukee that's really different is the Bucks know they need to get divorced, but they don't really want to because they're afraid of being single and alone forever. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you continue the analogy, I think that's really what's going on in Milwaukee. And so, and if we're being honest, I think Giannis is a really loyal guy. I think Giannis knows what's best for him in his career. Likely is to move along. I don't think he actually was the guy. I don't think he's a guy who really thought he ever would have to or wanted to move along either. So you have two parties that know divorce is the right way to go. Neither one of them's that committed to it because they just don't really know what happens next. That's kind of what I think.
Yeah, and if I take the analogy even one step further, this is a bit of a stretch. But the idea of Giannis playing another game right now is like sharing a bed.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, no, we're separated. We're not sharing a bed. Right. And it could tremendously negatively impact our ability to go through what is the next step in the process. The only thing to be gained by putting Giannis back on the court again, Friday night is the Bucks home finale, is for the fans to see Giannis on the court in a Bucks uniform one more time, and likely for the first time in NBA history with two of his brothers at the same time. But there is a risk, and the risk is every time you take the court, the risk is an injury on a commodity that loses a ton of value if something significant happened. And as it is now, he has value, but other franchises are going, well, shoot, he look at all the games he missed this year. Is this what we're trading for? You don't want to verify that. Jeff?
Yeah. Can we get off this dark analogy? You got, I mean, I'm ready to go hang a rope from the rafters.
No. Listen, divorce is hard one. And sometimes divorce is like a controlled burn in the spring, and it'll bring back future growth that is even greener and more lush. That's what happened with me. I mean,
real beauty.
It happened with everybody. But meeting Kari was like after a controlled burn, and 15 years later, super happy. I mean, life is
I'll bring in. I understand that. I'm just gonna get a little closer to sports. I'll bring the John Blackwell conversation in. I think it dovetails really nicely. We don't have to leave Giannis at all because there are similar situations. It's hard. It should be hard for a fan base to move on from players that have contributed, that have shown loyalty, have, laid it all out there. So you look at John, you look at Giannis. Giannis obviously much longer, given it's the NBA, not college. It should be hard for us. It'd be if it weren't hard for us, we'd either A, be bad fans, or B, they wouldn't be the players we thought they were. So, but everything comes to an end eventually, and it's not going to be easy in these moments, but it usually does make sense. It makes sense for Giannis and the Bucks to part ways. We need to start a full rebuild, and it sucks. And we've gotten 3 amazing years out of John Blackwell, and it makes a lot of sense for him because he is more than likely going to get more money somewhere else. And it makes a lot of sense for us because we can build a much more robust roster if we don't drop that big bag. If we can make it all work, I'm not going to complain. None of us are. But I don't like, Courtney and I talked about this yesterday, I don't like these moments in time where sadness and frustration, that's really what's going on in the fan base, gets turned into just, in some cases, petty, in some cases, outright hate. Come on, man. Take a deep breath. Put yourself in the shoes of the player, of the team.
Yeah. I saw one storyline on JB yesterday, and I think a lot of us thought this was possible. I said that I was pretty sure that he was going to leave after they were knocked out of the tournament, that I thought that John Blackwell would be a transfer for 2 reasons. One, I think he can go, not that Wisconsin isn't a high-level program, but I think John Blackwell is going to be coveted by the biggest names in college basketball. And what I'm getting to there is that one of the stories I saw yesterday from Ben Wargel had the 3 teams that he thought would be highest on the list as being Illinois, was Michigan the other, and Duke. So that John Blackwell would be going to get a bag of money and going to, quote unquote, one of the blue bloods in college basketball. I mean, 2 of those 3 teams are in the Final Four. One of them won the national championship, and Duke, if they don't screw it up, they were in the Final Four. So I get it, and this is one man's opinion. I don't think John Blackwell is going to play in the NBA. So I think this is a payday and a chance to take a lap with the program that is a blue blood in college athletics. And that's my opinion on his desire to leave. He wants a different experience. He wants to, sleep in another bed. What are we doing? What am I doing?
I got to say real quick to what Jeff said, and then I want to hit on the Blackwell thing. I also want to circle back to the Giannis thing, but I'll just say, Jeff and I did exchange some texts on this yesterday, and I got to tell you, like But we all know how social media is. We all know people can hide behind their screen name and people can say the things they want. And we always say, hey, I'm not going to tell somebody how to fan. I will tell you that, like, as a Badger fan, some of the things that, like, I thought John Blackwell's post was truly heartfelt. I think he means it.
Yeah.
I don't think he wants to leave Wisconsin. And as a Badger fan, I think some of the things that people are saying back to him are frankly embarrassing. I think it's a bad look for Badger fans. I think it's a bad look when you want to bring other people here and show them that love. And to your point, Mike, like, I agree with you. I've been saying for a long time, Jeff knows this, people debate this with me all the time, is that, I think Nolan Winter, I've always thought Nolan Winter is the true NBA talent on this roster. I think John Blackwell has some of the same challenges that Alondo Tucker had. I think he's just a tweener for the NBA in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Like he isn't quite athletic enough. He's not quite big enough. Like he's just not quite enough of anything. And so to your point, Mike, look, this is where he's going to get paid. I mean, I've heard people talking $4 and $5 million for a year for John Blackwell. And like I listened to your interview with Greg, and to your point, there's not enough transparency in college basketball. We don't know what the budgets are. Yeah. But I think we're all pretty clear that they're not going to spend half their budget on John Blackwell. And as a Badger fan, as much as I love John, I want to continue to see good Badger basketball. I think that would be foolhardy to get caught up in kind of this love of John Blackwell and just give him that money to keep him around. I don't think it's what's best for him, and I don't think it's what's best for us. And so to your point, if you can just kind of take your angry fan hat off for a second and just look at, hey, this is what he did for us for 3 years and appreciate it. I think that's great. I also think that, frankly, people's anger is misguided. I don't think the anger is towards John Blackwell. If you want to be angry at the fact that this system. Yeah. Yep. Let's just be, this would be like being angry at the Brewers for not spending $350 million this year. They don't have $350 million, right? You want to be mad about disparity in Major League Baseball. It's not the Brewers' fault. Yeah. You want to be mad about John Blackwell leaving. It's not John Blackwell's fault or the University of Wisconsin's fault. This is the system. And so that's what you have left. So I wish him nothing but the best. I hope he's wildly successful wherever he goes. And we can talk more about this, but my understanding is the choice was really between him and Nolan Winter. And the reality of it is everybody says, like, Nolan Winter's a much harder commodity to replace. Like, I know not everybody loves Nolan, but like 7-footers that shoot threes and spit out doubles every night are a lot harder to come by.
And that's my guess is that the Nolan Winter deal is done. They're just kind of walking through some of the finer details, and then that will be announced sometime, I would think, fairly soon. I'll be really surprised if I'm wrong on that Nolan Winter is not going to stay. But I wouldn't disagree, Courtney. I think maybe I would quibble on those numbers. I don't know. I don't think 4-5 is in play for him. But it only takes one suitor who is willing to pay above market value. I would think 1.5 to 2 is the going rate for JB on the open market. But dollars change every year. And to your point, and what I've talked about consistently since all of this came into play, is that there is no transparency. We don't find out who got paid what. There are some stories out there of Demansta at BYU and some others of how much money, but they're secondary information. And anyway, in that case, I think Wisconsin has done a very good job, and Greg Gard has done a very good job. But I thought John Blackwell this was almost inevitable. And I don't think there's blame to be had. To your point, Courtney, I don't have any ill will towards John Blackwell, period. It's one of those deals where I don't think he owes this fan base anything more. And I don't think we necessarily owe him, other than to stay above board. Let's not make this a personal attack on a decision that is everybody's decision in college football and basketball.
Yeah. And honestly, if you want to have a discussion about John Blackwell, I mean, let's just be honest. I mean, I've always been honest. I said this, I think, to Jeff and some other folks in some texts yesterday, like, look, I like John, and I'm not taking shots at John, but the reality of it is, undersized 2/3s that can score and play below average defense. I mean, that's what we're really talking. I mean, that's who John is. I mean, let's just be honest. We all saw it this year. And I think if you're Gard and you heard the things that Greg said on your podcast, you heard the thing Greg said about how this team was constructed and where the shortcomings of this team were.
Defense is certainly at the forefront.
Okay, well, and your two guard can't be a guy who can't match up every night.
Yeah.
Can't be. So how much money are you going to invest in that guy? And that, again, that's no slight on how great a person I think John is and his ability to play basketball. What we're talking about here is constructing a winning basketball team, and then you have to ask yourself again: 7-footer in the middle who can shoot and rebound, or guy who scores 19 a night, gives up 19 a night. I mean,
Jeff, jump in.
Yeah, I don't think you're doing this, but 19 points a night, and actually pretty good on the boards too, right? 5.5 rebounds. It's a lot to replace, but it's the right reason based on the money. It's interesting. John would agree with everything you just said, Court, because he wants to get better on, off the dribble shooting and defense. So it's like that part of, I agree, his very heartfelt goodbye made me go, what? Then you might want to stay here, because like Greg's been yelling at you to become a better defender for the better part of 2 years. So I don't know. Maybe he's gonna learn a different aspect of how to play defense and discover a piece of his athleticism that he didn't know he had. But yeah,
I do see 247 has him ranked as the number 2 player in the portal. Like, he's going to get real money. And to your point, Mike, we can't overlook that part. And I go back. I was never a big Mike Golick fan, but Mike Golick used to always say, when people say kids should stay in school and get their degrees, he used to always say, well, when it's your kid and they're $2 million, then you come give me your opinion about how kids should stay in school. So we can all sit here as fans and go, we love the University of Wisconsin. We can't believe John wants to leave. He should just stay here and stick it out. I think very few people love this place more than I do. Maybe JV, maybe you, Mike, but I will just tell you, if my son was in John's spot and he came to me and said, so Dad, I can go play basketball someplace else for a year and make twice as much money and maybe get a chance to win a national championship. I know how much you love Wisconsin. What should I do? I'd have a real hard time looking him in the eye.
Yeah.
And telling him to stay here.
Right. I found it. Let me address James, who sent in. Who did you say Blackwell was looking at? I didn't, but I did cite the piece that Ben Wargle put out, that the top 3 teams he could see that would be in the hunt for Blackwell would be Illinois, Michigan, and Duke. And as Courtney just said, that you list John Blackwell as the number 2 player in America on the portal list right now. Every big program, in Michigan, I don't know how many of those guys are going to come back and play. They were all transfers. All 5 starters last night were 1-year transfers. He would fit there. We know Tom Izzo loves John Blackwell. Put Michigan State on that list. Put Duke on that list. You're talking about the bluest of the blue bloods in college basketball. Not that Wisconsin is too far removed from that, and staying here would not be a mistake. So I want to be clear about that. But the biggest bag of money belongs to those elite level programs. And Duke, again, nothing's transparent. Duke spends with the best of them. They have no financial shortcomings. There are great advantages to being at Duke. If he ends up at Duke or at Michigan or at Illinois or at Michigan State, will we look at, and I hope he goes to Duke. I don't want to see John Blackwell come back and play at the Kohl Center in a different uniform. If he does, it's not like I'm going to be angry about it, but I prefer that he goes somewhere else. I want to touch on this before we can go wherever we want. We can either stay here or flip to do a little Wilson Contreras breakdown. But I thought Bilas was really good over the weekend in that college panel that I'm sure you guys saw at some level that had Coach Cal on it. And Bilas kind of, he does kind of take over. The attorney in him, the Duke in him, the smartest guy in the room in him, kind of takes over in that moment a little bit. But one of the things, and I don't know if he said it or Seth said it, but we're talking about these college athletes that are going to make a move and go from $450,000 to $600,000 to $800,000 for a year. And then when they finish and they take their European basketball tour because they're not good enough to play in the NBA, and they come back and they're offered a job for $60,000.
Yeah.
That what are we doing? Are we training our kids, these young men? And we're talking about the 1%ers. Are we training them the right way? Because listen, I live in an industry when I was working for the motherships of the radio industry. We want those guys to work for us. You know, we would have wanted Sam Decker to work for us. The offer is $70,000 or $80,000. Well, what do you mean? Look at me. I was playing in Europe. I was playing, I had an NBA two-way contract, and in college I was making $700,000. Well, dude, that ain't reality. This is the mean streets. This is the real world. If you're in the NBA, if your talent gets you there, you don't have to worry about this stuff. Yeah. And once you played in it, then you can go to networks and they'll pay you more. But at the local radio level, going to work for a bank, going to work for pick your company, that offer is a starting wage of $60,000, $70,000, $80,000. And I thought that was very interesting. I don't think it needs specific comment on it, but I just thought, for those that didn't see it, I tweeted it out over the weekend. You can go back and look at it. I think it's 11, 12 minutes. That's a really good conversation. Vilker, where do you want to go here? You want to stay here? You want to go back to, you want to stay on a Wisconsin thing? You want to jump into Wilson Contreras?
I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I do think two quick things. We got 3 years out of Chucky Hepburn. We're going to get 3 years out of John Blackwell. We got 3 years. That's incredible. It's mystifying me that the fan base, we don't understand this new era. It's not the first year of it, right? We're entering the fourth year of it. So we won the lottery, getting 6 in total, very productive years out of those two guys. It doesn't happen. Look around. All 5 starters, transfer guys at Michigan last night. It doesn't happen. It's never going to happen again. And then slightly related to what you just said, Mike, I loved the part of that 12-minute clip with Bilas and Seth that focused on what needs to happen to get this whole system under control. I was not overly enamored with the part you just brought up around those are rich people problems. If guys exit college with after-tax 1.2 to 2.5 million in the bank, I don't give a sweet flying fuck if they go make 45 grand. When you compound 2.5 million over 35 years, they're doing just fine. Now, if they did it right, which isn't our job, it's their job, but if they did it right, we don't need to get them mental health support at that point. We just need to get them financial advisor support. So correct. I get that, but what about the guy that was 8-9 on the bench that made 0 NIL and is going out and making 60 grand? Hopefully he or she focused on their education, and you can guess many of them do. So I want to get the system figured out. I want and it was fascinating how deep into the weeds Bilas went on that particular discussion and how much he knows. Like, that guy needs to be in the room when this gets decided.
Jeff, to your point too, I think the people at Guard mentioned this a little bit, that people really paying the price are high school kids. I've said for a long time though, who also is really so. The real problem with NIL, and I know we're off on a little bit of an NIL tangent here, but I've said this since it started, is the real problem is, there's a few people, the John Blackwells of the world, that are going to make a lot of money. Okay. Yep. There's a whole bunch of people that are no further ahead than they were really before NIL started, or not significantly further ahead. And you could even argue they go back. I heard our good man, the Hebrew Hammer, has a Matt Bernstein has a podcast, and Matt was talking about how he's like, I wonder when these guys get married who've been to 5 schools in 5 years, like, who's in their wedding? People ask them where they went to college and what shaped their lives. What do they tell people, right? And a buddy of mine he's like, that stuff's all great, but wouldn't you trade that when you were that age for $500,000? And I said, this is where we've all gotten so. I'm not trying to say that there aren't people that need to provide for their family and they don't have much and they have an option to make money. But I'm like, you say that, but then you sit there and you go, okay, so it's $500,000, but see, it's not $500,000 because they all have an agent and they all pay taxes. Yeah. And actually what you've just done is you've just traded life experience and friendships and education and all those things for a couple $100,000 when you're 18 years old. And I know a couple $100,000 is a lot of money. I'm not going to sit here and tell anybody in this podcast that if somebody gave me a couple $100,000, I don't have things I want to do with it. But I think Bernstein's point was very interesting that, when you really look at the trade-off and when you really look at what some of these kids are getting to uproot their lives and move around and not develop friendships and not follow through, frankly, on like, hey, this coach is hard on me, so I'm going to go here and play, and you don't deal with all those things. You do kind of really ask yourself, like, man, are they really getting ahead? Like, are they really, now some kids are really getting ahead. I want to be clear. Like, John Blackwell is going to really get ahead, right?
Yeah.
But you have to ask yourself on the other end of that spectrum, like, is Jack Robison really getting ahead?
Sure. Let me take it back one step. You brought up, Jeff, you brought up Chucky Hepburn. Did that end up being a good move for Chucky? He probably made, as I understood it, somewhere around $700,000 to go to Louisville. He committed to Louisville even before he had met their head coach because that was the biggest bag of money. And I don't know that he came out ahead financially in the deal as if he would have stayed at Wisconsin in the same circumstance, because the build-in, the connection, the alumni base, everything else that he benefits by staying. I don't know that who does that study financially if he came out ahead. AJ Storr made a bunch of money by going to Kansas, and then he didn't do anything. Like, it did not work. It worked maybe for the bank account. I have no idea what his financials look like, but it worked from a money standpoint, at least on the check that was written to him, but it didn't work in any other way. I don't know that Chucky is better, and I don't know that JB will be better or worse. It'll be his call, his decision, because I think Chucky and Louisville, weren't they out in the first or second round? He didn't get to the second weekend, did he? Last year, I don't think Louisville did. I'm going off of memory here. But these transfer decisions are part of the landscape of college athletics. And I think all of us, if we just put a blanket on and say, okay, one rule change you'd want, 2-year deals, one-time transfer, one of those concepts, put it in play. You get a one-time transfer as an undergraduate and then a transfer as a graduate. So maybe you get to leave twice. If you're at Wisconsin.
Salary cap, which is going to demand that they're employees. And that was the really interesting part of that conversation, where they need a players union. This has to be taken. It already is out of the hands of the NCAA. Yeah. And sadly, it's probably the federal government that has to step in. And I don't think they do everything wrong, but they do enough wrong for me not to be totally comfortable with that scenario. But it's not a states' rights issue, and the conferences the Power Four's not asserting enough control over this. Yeah. The players can't do jack shit. They're not employees. You can't have you cannot have, Christ, it's worse than Major League Baseball, and that's the only pro league that doesn't have a salary cap, and we bitch about that. You got to figure this out. Come on.
You do. I'm going to edit right here and make the editorial decision to move on to Brewers from last night. So because
Louisville lost to Creighton. Louisville lost to Creighton in the first round. There you go, Mike.
First round. Yeah. So Chucky was out right away.
He had a great year, but they lost. Yes.
Correct. Yeah. And so it got better in the bank account, and I don't know what his experience was like, so I'm not going to imagine that I can opine about that.
We go to Joseph Garbe now. Let's talk about it.
Yeah. Okay. So let's break this down a little bit. Last night after the Brewers win, Wilson Contreras met with the reporters in Boston, and this is his quote. "They always say I'm not trying to hit you. That gets old. So next time they hit me, I'm going to take one of them out. That's the message." I think he kind of did that last night. He said in the continuing portion of that interview, he said that was a clean slide. Well, it wasn't a clean slide because your spike can't be up on a clean slide. Mm-hmm. And you can't pop up on a takeout slide in a double play. The rules changed. You cannot pop up slide, which he did, and you cannot cleat up slide, which he did. So he's wrong on both fronts. I know he felt it was a clean slide. It wasn't called that it wasn't, but it was.
There was a ripped uniform, correct?
Yeah, I mean the spike got caught just below the knee on the pant leg.
That's high up.
Yeah. So I get it. Wilson Contreras has been hit by the Brewers 24 times. He's been hit by Woodruff 6 times. Now, Woody was great last night. He was not going to engage, and Wilson was motherfucking him the whole time from the bench, going up the first baseline with his brother trying to make sure it didn't go any further. But then, like, Wilson was not going to let it go. And not once, at least from the camera coverage, did Woody give him even a glance. Like, he just took his extra warm-up pitches and did what he was going to do. But this is really my point on all of this. This is part of why I love this game. It polices itself. Major League Baseball might get involved here, but it polices itself. And tonight, the intrigue when Miz takes the mound and Contreras comes to bat will be interesting because Miz doesn't always know where it's going now. And part of the plan to pitch Wilson Contreras is to get in his kitchen. You need to pitch him inside. You need to have the inside corner. Why? Because of what I was talking about before. He's a diver when he swings. When he's going to go, he steps into the plate. And last night, that ball that hit him was about 3 inches from being a strike.
Yeah.
What was your react? I don't know if you guys are watching it live. Listen, I'm a diehard, so I'm Brewers first, and then was switching to and from. And fortunately, the Brewers began at 5:45, so that happened well before the NCAA championship. But what was your take on the goings on last night?
I'm gonna let JV go because I have a tendency to get running. So you go, JV, and I'll follow.
I want to. I mean, what's this whole day about if I can't hear you run your mouth, CC?
Fine.
That's what I'm.
So I'll run my mouth. So first of all, Wilson Contreras is full of shit. That ball did not hit him, and he knows it didn't hit him. And the whole thing was a show to sell that it hit him. I saw the replay. I understand why they didn't overturn it. I heard the announcer saying last night maybe the umpire heard it, right? Because it looks like he just grazed the gloves, right? That all might be true. But let's just be realistic. You know, it's funny. I was looking back at last year. Randy Orozarena, I'm sure I got the name wrong, played for Seattle, hit 27 times last year. Caleb Durbin, number 2 on that list last year, hit by pitch 24 times in 2025. Then Wilson Contreras with St. Louis. To your point, Mike, what we know is there's some guys, because of their batting stance and how they like to crowd the box and how their first move is, some guys get hit more than other guys.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Wilson Contreras is one of those guys.
Caleb Durbin, who played for the Brewers last year, now for the Red Sox, he got hit a ton, and it's because he stands right on top of the damn base or the plate. Who's the former Cubs first baseman that got hit all the time? Recent anyway, but I'm sorry, I didn't have the name. Star player, and then went and played for the Yankees. He is on the plate, like on the plate. Yeah. Guys will get hit when they're on the plate, and then the pitching instruction. Then I'll go back to you, Courtney. Pitching instruction is Rizzo. Thank you, Mike. Anthony Rizzo. Rizzo got hit a ton. Why? Because he's right on the damn plate.
Right.
And when pitching coaches work with their pitchers, with guys that crowd the plate, their goal is to pitch them inside. You have to pitch that guy inside. You cannot give up that third of the plate or off the plate. So Contreras gets hit because of Contreras. Go ahead. Sorry, Court.
No, you're 100% right. That's 100% my point. I think he sold the crap out of it. And quite candidly, we all know this. Getting worked inside and getting hit by the pitch is nowhere near the same thing as coming in cleats high and a second baseman is trying to turn it over.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't want to be dramatic because it doesn't happen that often. But at the end of the day, if you don't think there was a chance last night that David Hamilton was leaving that game seriously injured, then you're crazy, because absolutely there was a chance he left seriously injured. And what Wilson Contreras dove into a pitch that grazed a batting glove.
Yeah. I don't want to ignore the history, because they have hit him 24 times. He's been hit by Brewers pitching 24 times. I know they played him a ton, but I mean, the Cubs haven't hit him that many times. So he played with the Cubs. The Pirates and the Reds haven't hit him that many times, who is in the same division. And Contreras in his postgame went on to say, they don't care about my health. They don't care about my health. So I'm going to send it happens again. I'm going to take one of their guys out. That's the message. I actually think he did that last night. That was, to me, done absolutely with intention on the slide into second base. And he doesn't stay there for a moment to make sure that the player's all right. He immediately peels back and runs to the dugout as a proud as a peacock that he did what he did. Hey, this is how this is going to be. You guys hit me. I'm gonna do what I can do to take somebody out on your team.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I wonder if he gets along with his brother. I bet they hate each other.
Well, Williams said last night in the post game something to the effect of, "That's his game. That's how he plays." Yeah, I think he's a fiery dude.
Yeah.
And the Brewers have been on the receiving end. And this goes back to, kind of like Brewers Cardinals when La Russa was in that mix, and, Greg Matzik, who works at TMJ in Milwaukee, kind of have at him with the Anthony Pujols deal and Ryan Braun when they went back to back on hitting the other team's players. Of course, there are times when guys are thrown at. I've watched baseball my whole life. Woodruff is not throwing at Wilson Contreras, period. And nobody who understands baseball thinks that he is. Pitching inside is part of the game. Throwing at somebody is a different part of the game. And this is not throwing at Wilson Contreras. And that he makes it out to be like they're throwing at me is bullshit.
Yeah.
I mean, it's simply baseball bullshit. It's not the truth.
Did you see Woody roll his eyes? They caught Woody on camera a couple times. He's literally rolling his eyes. Like, give me a break. I said to some guys last night, I hope Miz puts one right between his shoulder blades tonight, and then they can look right at him and go, see, that's what getting thrown at.
Thrown at you is.
That's what thrown at is. Like, and Wilson, what's frustrating is, to your point, Mike, if you think Wilson Contreras, that's what's frustrating is he knows the amount of baseball he's played. He knows Brandon Woodruff wasn't throwing at him.
Not last night.
No, he just doesn't like their pitching philosophy. This is as much a Chris Hook deal as it is anything. Now, I know it predates Chris Hook, but this is a good pitching coach with a hitter that wants the inside half of the plate, inside third of the plate to be his. It's a good pitching coach that says, I know there's risk involved in this. I mean, shit, were there two runners on base when they hit him, or was he the second runner on base? I think he was the second runner on base.
Yeah, it didn't load him.
There's no game management that says, yeah, put him on base. They're not throwing at him. They're throwing inside.
Someone tweeted out all 24, beanballs. And so it was an easy way to kind of get a highlight film of him getting plucked and plunked. Yeah. And the majority of them were kind of those turn in, hit between shoulder and elbow, right? Exactly what we're talking about now. They're obvious. Out of 24, there are going to be a couple that were more egregious, like scapula shots, shoulder blade shots.
Yeah.
So they're there. They're there. I think it's both. I'm not saying the fault falls to both sides, because even objectively, I think the fault is how he's reacting. That fault falls to him.
Yeah. And
exactly what you laid out, Mike. He's asking for it, essentially.
Yeah.
So
understand just one other baseball specific weedy thing. When you're throwing inside as a right-handed pitcher to a right-handed hitter, you're throwing a two-seam or a four-seam fastball. You're not throwing a slider. You're not throwing a changeup. Not throwing a curveball. When you're throwing inside, trying to establish inside third of the plate or off the plate, you're throwing a fastball, either two-seam or four-seam. Two-seam's going to move. Four-seam's going to be harder. Two-seam's going to move. Two-seam's going to move with a right-hander into him, and they do get away. I don't have a problem. If I'm the dude, if I'm Wilson Contreras, I'm probably pissed off too. But that message is a little petulant. It's a little, and I think it's great for the game. Like, I love this crap. I mean, to me, this is part of what makes baseball so much fun for me. Like, I can't wait to watch tonight's game. I'm going to be at Red and White. So I can't watch it the way, like last night I was hunkered down. I'm not feeling great. So I was hunkered down on the couch. And I mean, I was on that couch for a long time between the start of that game and the finish of the championship game last night. There was a lot of couch time. I don't get to watch it that way tonight, but this is get your popcorn ready. It's Garrett Crochet and Jacob Mizorowski. I mean, those are two of the best. So that part is great. B, it's at Fenway. And C, now you got the Contreras situation. Shit. Like, this is like, from a baseball fan standpoint, this is must-see TV.
It'll be a blast night. Who do you, as a Brewer fan, taking recency bias out of it, who do you dislike more, Wilson Contreras or Yadier Molina?
Oh, boy, Yadier.
Yeah, right.
Yadier.
One hurt us a lot more than the other.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, like similar fire, similar way that they play, similar passion for the game. And I look, and I get all that with Wilson. My bigger issue with it is like I just felt like last night it was really contrived. That's all. And maybe that's what he thought his team needed. Let's face it, that's not a good baseball team right now. I mean, you had people last night chanting sell the team. They're 2-8. You know, if I was going to defend Wilson Contreras as his teammate or his manager, maybe you're looking for one of the guys in your team
to fire him up.
Yeah, like we need to get right. Like, what does he say in Bull Durham? Their kids scare him. Like, maybe he's just throwing the bats into the showers.
I mean, in the bigger baseball picture, I think the Red Sox are going to be fine. They're not at any 10-point stretch in the season. I don't think the Brewers had one of these. But you're going to lose 8 out of 10 games at some point during the season.
Beginning of the year last year, Mike.
Yeah, correct. The ebbs and flows of a Major League Baseball season, you're going to have stretches like the Red Sox are going through now. I think they're an uber-talented team, and I think they're going to be just fine. But what I love, if we get away from the Contreras stuff just for a moment, we can go back to it. What I love about who the Brewers are is they did all the things that you have to do to win a baseball game last night. How about the play at the plate?
That's unbelievable.
Right? How about the Yelich decision, because that has nothing to do with Matt Erickson, the third baseman.
That was his decision.
Yelich reads the play because he sees the ball. And when that throw goes wide of home plate, I don't know where the throw was going, by the way. When it goes wide of home plate and starts clattering around on the backstop, Yelich goes, and then the slide is extraordinarily good. And his fired up concept, the primal scream after the slide. I love all of that. And then I love that this team continues to play error-free defense. And why did the Brewers get that rally? Because Caleb Durbin made essentially 2 mistakes in the field in the previous half inning. And he was a very good defender for the Brewers. But Milwaukee last night, and like they have all season long, I knocked on my desk, I don't think they've committed an error.
It's crazy.
I mean, they are so good, and they drag the pitcher, that Jason Lane line that now is being used by Sal Frelick, drag the pitcher into hell, making them earn the at-bats. They did it last night from the start. They made Brian Bayo work.
60.
And he up a run. The Brewers had 2 runners on in the first, second, third, and fourth inning before they scored a run. But they were adding up his pitch count. He was out. What did Bayo go last night? 3 1/3, 5 hits, 4 runs, 85 pitches on 10 outs. That's who this team is. They do it in so many different ways. Woodruff was good, not great. I don't even know if he was good. He was okay, not great. They were down 3-0. They had left 11 runners on base last night, and I think Mitchell, in his 5 at-bats, had 9 runners on base, and he didn't deliver until his last one.
Hey, he delivered.
He delivered.
Hey, can we're running out of time, and it's been glorious that we haven't talked about Michigan. And just because they won a natty doesn't mean we can't continue to say fuck Michigan. But can we just quickly end or talk about how ridiculously poor the refereeing was in that? It was a wrestling. So I'm going to throw this back at you. To me, one of 3 things happened. The refereeing was that bad. 2, they're just 2 teams that are extremely athletic and aggressive, and it looked like they were bumping into each other and following each other, but somehow they really weren't doing that. Or 3, some combination thereof. I mean, they're just athletes, and it just, they were always in front of each other. So it just looked
closer to 2 and 3 than 1. In fact, Danny Hurley said post-game last night that if he could have those 3 officials ref every game they played, he would sleep well at night. Like, he praised the officials. I thought they called it tighter. I mean, obviously they did based on numbers. They called it tighter in the first half and let them play a little bit more in the second half. Like, I thought that part was good. Sometimes the way teams play, to me, Treadmill, they don't give officials a choice, because if they called all the fouls, it would be a whistle fest.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it would be a every time. And if coaches say, I don't care, keep playing this way, make them call it. They're not going to call it all night. They're not going to foul all of us out. And I thought that's kind of what both sides did last night. We're going to play this way, and we're going to dare you, the officials, to call all of it. In the first half, they called a lot of it. And in the second half, they called almost none of it.
Yeah, I'll say this. I back a few years ago, this is how the Eagles played defense. Probably 7, 8, 9 years ago, I think we went through a phase where the Philadelphia Eagles played defense this way. They just committed pass interference on every play, and they're like, "Well, nobody's going to grind this game to a halt
every time."
Yeah, we'll just grab and pull, and we'll just do whatever we need to do. So I do agree that. I will say, like, to Jeff's point, look, my hatred for the University of Michigan runs deep, only because they've earned it through their ridiculous arrogance and willingness to cheat. I was asking last night, I wonder what we'll find out in 2 years they did to win this national championship. But so I admit right out of the gate that I'm biased here, but 22 fouls to 13. So as rough as that game was, when you sit there and look at it, you're telling me that as rough as that game was, that that UConn committed almost twice as many fouls in that game. Like, I have a hard time with that. I mean, Michigan shot 28 free throws. UConn shot 16. And I'm not a Danny Hurley guy. The guy drives me nuts. I will also tell you, like, if that isn't the most underrated sports program over the last 30 years, UConn, not just in college basketball, they've won 6 national championships in the last 30 years.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not even close. Nobody else has won more than 3 in that same time frame. And it's like every year we come around and everybody's like, "Oh, is UConn really any good?"
Yeah.
And all they've done is win, 2 of the last 3 national championships and play for another. I mean, like, so at some point in time, you got to give credit where credit's due there. I will say, as much as I hate Michigan, I think I like Dusty May. I think I do. I know I like him more than Juwan Howard, low bar, but I think I actually like him. He seems like a likable guy.
Yeah, I get that. Michigan State fans disagree. There's an entitlement that comes with putting on the maize and blue, right? That entitlement, smug, that goes with being at Michigan. So there's going to be that. Parting thoughts, because we could. I should reconsider Superfan Tuesdays to make it a 90-minute special, but we're not going to today. So we're essentially out of time. But any parting thoughts on the way out the door from either or both of you?
I have one back to where this conversation started, and just because we started on the Giannis thing, and then kudos to Jeff tying in the JB thing, and I do agree with a lot of parallels there. But I'll tell you, like, I've had this discussion with a couple other people who are much bigger Bucks fans than I am, and you and I have talked about this, Mike. I think the Bucks have tried to do what they can to surround Giannis with talent to get him what he needs. So we give the front office a lot of credit. All of that said, I really think, to kind of put a pin in that, the day they fired Mike Budenholzer was the beginning of the end for this arrangement. And if you just and I only say it because you kind of started talking about divorce, right, and the idea of a divorce, and you look at Booty had about a 700 winning percentage. Jeff is our good friend, but my cousin Aaron, your friend Aaron, says all the time, like, so they fired him after the year after they won a championship, because they exited in the first round. They lost in the first round to the team that won the NBA championship in a 7-game series on essentially a really closely contested Game 7, and you move away. Then you hire Adrian Griffin, who goes 30-13, and decide that even though he's winning at a 70% winning percent for some reason, that's just not good enough. And let's just be really honest about it. Like, I can't imagine how you bring Doc Rivers back as your coach. So that's all a really long way of saying that while I give the front office a lot of credit for some of the other moves they've tried to keep Giannis, it's hard not to look at the decisions they've made from a coaching standpoint and ask yourself, like, is there a lot actually of blame to go around to the front office for how they've handled that part of the management of this team? And is it going to cost all of us another 3 to 5 years of getting to watch, arguably one of the best basketball players, certainly of my lifetime, but of a lot of our lifetimes.
And not only that, but as the kids, the fans of the team, now we're going to end up moving into a rundown duplex. Like, we didn't get the house. Like, for the next 3 years, we're going to be in transition, living in a bad part of town, in a duplex with a detached garage. I mean,
and to be clear, Mike, with how it's gone with the Bucks, like this might be it in my lifetime. Like, let's be honest, there might not be relevant Bucks basketball again because what it requires for a team like Milwaukee is to catch lightning in a bottle again.
Yep.
Because let's just be honest, you're not going to sign Cooper Flagg when he's you're not going to get Wembanyama. Like, those guys aren't coming here. So they
don't want to come to Milwaukee. Just ask LeBron. Memphis and Milwaukee. They don't want to go to either one.
Do not get me started on LeBron. And really,
I didn't mean to. Hey,
there's a night a year in Milwaukee. Right? A night a year. What a jackass.
Yeah. Treadmill, your parting shot.
Man, I wish I could say this morning was a dream come true, but we just know that's just not the case. It's just, I would, Court, I'd join you anytime. No, I think we covered a lot of ground, and there was a lot to cover today. Parting thought would be I'm over the top excited about where Milwaukee is today, Brewers, and the trajectory for the rest of the season, getting healthier with guys like Priester and Vaughn and Cheerio eventually making it back. It's just an embarrassment of riches. It's great. I mean, let's fuck around and find out. Let's just see if we can take this all the way, even with disparity and payroll.
And Cheerio could be activated as early as Friday on the homestand coming up.
If you have any friends who are Cubs fans, ask them if they still think they got the smartest brewer.
Yeah, right. No kidding.
I love our boy Craig, but it brings a warmness to my heart that they all thought they had absolutely just come in and taken our secret sauce and moved it to Chicago. It just makes me so happy.
We got lucky with Murph.
Boys, this is the concept that when Treadmill and I ran into one another at a Badger hockey game back in December, I think, whenever it was. This concept, this plays. I appreciate both of you and being part of Superfan Tuesday. And this is a lot of fun for me. I hope you guys think it is too. We'll look forward to doing it again next week.
Yeah.
All right, boys.
Gentlemen. Thanks, Mike.
All right, we'll see you guys. Take them both out of the mix here. Wow, when Courtney said, I think we're running out of time, I didn't believe I had to look because I never looked at the clock during the show. To me, that's what a good hour-long podcast is. Our presenting sponsors on the show, I want to thank them because they are what makes this possible. One Community Bank, presented by One Community Bank. Stop by any one of our locations or visit us at onecommunity.bank to upgrade to feel good banking. One Community Bank, proud to serve clients, support colleagues, and invest in our communities. Also presented by M3 Insurance. They help businesses and individuals manage risk, purchase insurance, and provide the right benefits to their employees. See them at m3ins.com. Presented by Neuroscience Group, brain, spine, and pain care. For your health, it's who you trust. Neuroscience Group, bringing together specialists in neurology, spine, and pain management, working to get you back to full strength. Neurosciencegroup.com. And brought to you by Potawatomi Sportsbook and Casino. Bet above the rest. And Habish, and Rotier, 13 locations to ensure you get a hometown attorney who understands your life and the impacts of your injury and is personally committed to your recovery. What a great show. We're out of time. We'll do it again tomorrow. I'm not certain who's in with me tomorrow, but I'll let you know on Twitter. Tell your friends to download and subscribe at YouTube. Also, watch this show live daily on Twitter. We're coming to Facebook, but it takes 60 days after we launch before Facebook will take us live. But please let your friends know sports-minded, like-minded people because I think they would enjoy this, and I hope you think so as well. We'll do it again tomorrow. I Love Mondays. The Wednesday edition is less than 24 hours away.
I love Mondays with Mike Heller.